Welcome back to the deep dive. So today we're wading into territory that can often feel really overwhelming. The world of rare genetic conditions. Specifically, we're looking at the research around Börjeson-Forssman-Lehmann Syndrome, or BFLS.
Right.
And you know how it is. Usually when you search for something like this, you just get hit with a wall of scientific reports, medical jargon.
It's daunting. It's so dense, and frankly, it can be really heavy. It often hides the insights that actually help.
Exactly. So our mission today is to cut right through that noise. We've gone through the sources you sent over, and we're just going to pull out the most hopeful, the most empowering takeaways.
Yes.
This is all about shifting the focus from, deficits and uncertainty to potential and action.
And that's really the headline here, I think. The material, it gives us this inspiring roadmap. The goal isn't just sitting around waiting for some cure that's years away.
Right.
The focus is on actively giving that child the best, richest childhood that science can offer right now.
Yeah.
And the focus on the present, that's the real win.
Okay, let's start right there then, with that idea of hope. Because when a family gets a diagnosis, what they need, more than anything, is a reason to believe a joyful life is possible.
It is. And the data here is actually profoundly reassuring. The long-term outcomes for these kids, they often defy the sort of standard medical predictions.
Oh, really?
Yeah. What we see is that if you treat the symptoms aggressively and you get in there with early intervention, and we can talk about what that means, most boys with BFLS grow up to be happy, loving, and just way more capable than a diagnosis on paper might suggest.
So when you say aggressively treating symptoms, what are you actually fighting against? What are those main hurdles?
Well, you're fighting the syndrome's foundational challenges. A big one is hypotonia.
Low muscle tone.
Exactly, low muscle tones, especially early on. And that affects everything, mobility, feeding, even their speech. Then you might have intellectual disability, maybe seizures. So aggressive treatment means you're not just watching these things happen. You're hitting them head on with intense physical therapy for the hypotonia, or speech therapy before delays can really set in.
So it's about creating a whole new trajectory for them, not just waiting to see what happens.
Precisely.
Yeah.
That potential for a joyful life, it isn't just some nice idea. It becomes the guiding light for everything you do. It forces everyone, parents and doctors, to stop looking at what the child can't do.
And focus on what they can.
And focus on what they can. It's a proactive, loving framework where you are actively building their quality of life moment by moment.
I think that phrase, proactive love, that has to be the most empowering message from all of this.
It is.
You realize you're not just a passive bystander. You're in a sort of scientific, loving fight for your child's best life.
It totally shifts the energy. Instead of being paralyzed by what-ifs, you're using every tool you have to maximize happiness right now. It turns despair into a mission.
Okay, so to fuel that mission, you need clarity. And that starts with understanding the root cause. Let's pivot to the genetics of BFLS.
Yes.
Because I found this part of the material to be, just the most emotionally resonant piece of the whole puzzle.
I agree, because understanding the mechanism, it isn't just science. It's comfort, it's relief.
Yeah.
So BFLS is caused by a mutation, basically a spelling error, in a gene called PHF6.
So what does that gene, PHF6, what does it normally do? Why does one little error there cause all of these specific issues?
It's a fascinating gene. It's a regulator. It's in charge of how other genes get read and used, especially during early brain development and for the pituitary gland.
Okay.
So when that regulator is disrupted, you see this domino effect that leads to the core features of BFLS, the developmental delays, the intellectual disability, those kinds of things. Just knowing that why lets families stop searching and start focusing on the how.
The how of care.
Right.
And here is where that compassionate discovery comes in. The sources really emphasize how this mutation happens, and it's overwhelmingly a brand new mutation. It's, what's it called? De novo.
That finding changes everything for the parents.
Yeah.
In over 70% of the families they studied, neither parent carried the gene change. It didn't come from mom, it didn't come from dad.
So you're saying it's just random, a spontaneous biological event that happens when the egg or sperm is formed.
Exactly. A spontaneous event. It's not inherited. It's nothing anyone could have prevented. And that detail is so incredibly important.
Because parents, they must carry this crushing guilt.
Oh, an enormous burden. They're replaying everything in their minds, what they ate, what they did, wondering if they passed on something harmful.
Feeling responsible for their child's struggle.
Yes. And that guilt can just drain a family. So this genetic knowledge, the fact that it's de novo for most, it's this definitive scientific confirmation.
Yeah.
You are not at fault.
Wow.
It's biology being random. The diagnosis is tough, but the cause is blameless.
I can't imagine the weight that lifts. And once that burden is gone, all that emotional energy can be redirected.
Right back into that proactive, supportive care we were talking about.
Yeah.
It's a huge shift. And, I mean, it also helps with future planning. For these de novo cases, the recurrence risk for having another child with the syndrome is tiny.
Yeah.
Less than 1%.
So you move from fear to facts.
From paralyzing fear to data-driven reassurance, it's huge.
Okay, so with hope affirmed and blame removed, we get to the practical side of things. Supportive care. And I love how the sources frame these not as chores, but as deep acts of supportive love.
Absolutely. Because that's what they are. They're investments in independence and comfort.
And the focus is on empowerment through action.
Yes. Early action.
Yeah.
The sources point to two absolutely critical interventions: intensive early speech therapy and occupational therapy. These are the building blocks.
Okay, let's get specific. What does intensive speech therapy actually look like for these kids? Is it just drills?
It's much more than that. And it often involves tech. Because of the challenges with verbal speech, intensive therapy often means an early and aggressive introduction to AC devices.
Augmentative and alternative communication.
Exactly. So we're talking about tablets, communication boards. The goal isn't just spoken words, which might be hard for them. The goal is communication. Self-expression.
So they can tell you what they need, what they feel.
Yes. Prevent so much frustration and so many behavioral issues that way. It's a massive quality of life boost.
That makes total sense. Communication is everything. So how does OT, occupational therapy, fit in with that?
OT is the investment in physical independence. Because of the low muscle tone, fine motor skills are often a big challenge.
Right.
So OT works on all those daily skills we take for granted. Hand strength for dressing, for feeding yourself, for using the buttons on that communication tablet we just mentioned.
So they work together.
They're completely intertwined. These therapies are literally investments in that child's ability to navigate their world with more ease.
So the payoff for all that hard work early on is just monumental. What kind of concrete achievements do families see?
The outcomes are just incredibly hopeful. With this kind of investment, many of these kids learn to read.
Wow.
They master technology not just for communication, but for learning. These aren't small wins. These are life-changing skills.
And beyond therapy, the sources also talk about preventative care as another act of love. Let's talk about weight management.
Yes. This is a big one for long-term health and quality of life. The sources single out one critical action item: controlling weight, starting from when they are toddlers.
Why is this syndrome in particular linked to weight gain?
It seems to be a mix of things. There could be some issues with the hypothalamus, which controls appetite, so they might feel hungry more often. And you combine that with the low muscle tone and lower activity levels, and you have a perfect storm for weight gain.
Which makes the advice start managing it in toddlerhood so important, but also so incredibly hard for a parent.
It's very difficult. It requires a ton of discipline, but it has to be framed as support.
So what does that look like?
It looks like highly structured meal times, fixed portions, very limited snacks. It means finding ways to encourage physical activity like swimming, even if mobility is hard. It's about being really proactive to protect their health for decades to come.
It's the ultimate expression of that supportive care we've been talking about, making the road ahead smoother by taking disciplined, informed action right now.
That's the whole theme: knowledge-based empowerment.
Absolutely. So to boil it all down, we've really got three powerful pillars here. First, the inspiring potential for a happy, capable life that's often so much more than the initial diagnosis might suggest. Second, that immense emotional freedom that comes from knowing the genetic cause is de novo, that the parents are blameless. And third, the power of early intensive therapy, but as a loving investment in their child's independence, in their ability to communicate, to learn, and to live a fuller life. By using knowledge to maximize joy and potential today.
Right. Which kind of leaves us with a final thought for you to think about. If understanding the root cause of something like the de novo genetics here can so powerfully lift an emotional burden like parental guilt,
Yeah.
and if that knowledge can immediately point you toward effective, supportive action, what other areas of our lives could benefit from that same approach?
Oh.
I mean, think about how often we just manage the symptoms of a problem at work, in our lives, stress, conflict, whatever. What if we were as aggressive about finding the root cause there? What if we could shift our focus from blame or fear to immediate, supportive, and truly effective action? It's a powerful idea.